Welcome, folks, to Crypto News Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka. Today is May 28th, 2025, and thank you very much for joining. Hopefully, everything is going well wherever you are in the world. If you haven't done so already, please do subscribe to the channel. It helps in growing the channel substantially. We've got some great news today, as well as going through our market watch and Bitcoin technical analysis. BitBonds, they're calling it. New York City to launch world's first Bitcoin-backed municipal bonds, baby. Also, Bitcoin is a huge part of everything we do now, says Donald Trump Jr. We're going to get right into these stories right after our intro. Welcome again, everybody, and let's first talk about the growing adoption of Bitcoin and the price suppression of Bitcoin. Every day, we're getting different stories, new adoption from a different country, new Bitcoin strategic reserve, another company adding Bitcoin to their treasury, and stocks skyrocket. Michael Saylor has said that at some point, every company is going to have to adopt some kind of Bitcoin strategy. Why? It only makes sense. We've got Strategy B, now as they're known, who in 2 years, their stock has gone up 3,000%. So, when we're talking about typical stocks and companies on the S&P or the NASDAQ or NYSE, if a company goes up 20%, it's a great year, right? In Bitcoin, we're used to things going up 20% a month, if not, 14,000% in, 3 hours, like some of these little shit coins that come out. So 3,000% on a publicly traded company in a couple of years. You'd have to be an idiot if you don't want your company to take advantage of this. I had this discussion just the other day in my men's chat group where the guys were asking about, why would this actor put their name on this shitty food that they, had their commercial for, some crap. It looked like slop, right? And my response was, companies don't care anymore about the consumer. They only care about shareholders' wealth. If the stock owners are going to make money, this is all they care about. So they'll sell their food brand to Brazil or this, anywhere around the world. You see these, Restaurant Brands International is the biggest food chain. I believe they're bigger than McDonald's, or, with all their companies posted together. And my point was, if Brazil's buying up the food chain, the food company, well, your food's going to start looking and tasting like Brazilian food. If it's owned by an Indian company, your food's going to start looking and tasting like Indian food, and so on and so on. Chinese food, Italian food, Spanish food, right? They do not care about this beautiful localization. You're used to having this wonderful food. The company started maybe in your hometown or your home country, and everybody loves it, everybody eats it. Well, chances are it's not owned by your little community anymore. It's not even owned by your country. It's owned by somebody else in the world. Why did that happen? Because they only care about shareholders' wealth, right? So getting back to Bitcoin and Strategy B. he makes a very valid point when he says at some point, every company is going to have to start adopting some sort of Bitcoin strategy. They're going to see MicroStrategy and what's happened to them. They've got Metaplanet. I think they're up 700 or 800% their stock. Every single company that says they're putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet, suddenly their stock skyrockets 100, 200, 500, 1,000, 3,000%. So now there's, all types of companies. There's medical companies that suddenly they have nothing to do with Bitcoin. They have nothing to do with finance. They're selling medical equipment. But they're putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Every day there's another company. Every week there's another company that's adding Bitcoin to the balance sheet. They're watching their stock rise. Now, the other side of the story is as these companies want more Bitcoin, MicroStrategy has said they're going to get to 1 million Bitcoin. We've got BlackRock. They want to get to 1 million Bitcoin. U.S. government wants to get to 1 million Bitcoin, if not 5 million Bitcoin. The rest of the world buying up Bitcoin. There already is a shortage in Bitcoin, and at some point, there's going to be a dried supply where there's no Bitcoin for anybody. And at that point, you're going to be able to ask whatever you want for your Bitcoin in terms of price. Currently, the way the price is being suppressed is they're not buying, MicroStrategy every week now. He comes out with another Bitcoin tracker on Sunday, and we know that on Monday he's going to announce that they bought another, 20,000 Bitcoins or, $2 billion in Bitcoin or something like this, right? So why doesn't the price go up? You would think that someone's buying up the biddy, the price is going to skyrocket. I bought, if Sailor's buying 2,000, 5,000, 50,000 Bitcoin, you would expect that the market would see that and the market would skyrocket and the market price would go up immediately. No. What they're doing to alleviate that is they're doing it on the low. They're breaking up their purchases in a matter of days instead of one day, firstly. So instead of, if they're buying 10,000 Bitcoins, they won't buy 10,000 Bitcoins in a day. They'll buy 2,000 Bitcoins over 5 days each. On top of that, they'll also spread those Bitcoins up over multiple hours. Every 2-3 hours, they'll buy, 200-300 Bitcoins. So this way, the market doesn't see it as a huge jump, a huge purchase. They just see these small, 100, 200 Bitcoins, and they're all kind of shuffled in there. And it's 100% done by an algorithm. So that buys these in the highest volume points of the day. So it really slips under the radar because there's so much activity at that time. And it's a smaller purchase, not these, 10,000 Bitcoins. It's a couple hundred. At the highest peak volume periods of the day, it flies under the radar, the price doesn't move. We've talked about this before. If anybody, any country, any company, any pension fund, any sovereign wealth fund says, we are buying 1 million Bitcoin, the price is going to skyrocket immediately. They keep the information on the low. Make no mistake, there is a whole bunch of buying going on, and a lot of it's done on the over-the-counter market, and that's going to dry up at some point. They're also going directly to the big mining companies, and they're buying directly from there. But also, this is going to dry up. At some point, the mining companies are going to say, we're not selling you. Why would we sell you our Bitcoin when in 4 years, it's going to be worth 4 times what it is. It's just not in their best interest to keep selling off their Bitcoin. So there will be a big demand shock. The price of Bitcoin will, at some point in time, get to that elusive $1 million price. You might think it's nuts, but if you look back a few years, people thought when someone said, "Oh, Bitcoin price is going to $2,000, they thought you were insane. I'm not going to put, Bitcoin price was, maybe $500 or $100. I'm not going to throw my money away in Bitcoin. I had an accountant friend. They're not going to let you make your own money, right? But what's happening? Not only is the money being created, the biggest corporations in the world, the biggest money asset manager in the world, the biggest nations in the world are now looking to not miss out on the boat. Everybody's got FOMO all of a sudden. So Bitcoin is here to stay. Bitcoin price will go to $1 million, let alone $1 million, but in a bunch of years from now, multi-millions. The governments will, as we've read in the Bitcoin Standard Book, which of course I have in the comments of the show notes, along with other very good financial literacy books that I recommend you guys read. The free links to the audiobooks are there. They're all buying up the biddy, and they're not going to stop buying until they own everything. The common folk who the Bitcoin was created for, there's not going to be anything left for them, sadly. Once it's already at a point where at $107,000, $110,000, who can afford this? How many common folks can pull $100,000 out of their pocket and buy a Bitcoin? It's gotten to the point where 0.1 Bitcoin, you could become a millionaire. Think about it. Bitcoin goes to $10 million, you're a millionaire with 0.1. This is going to be happening. It will happen over the course of many years. It will happen over the course of decades. The supply shock at some point will come tumbling in. The announcement from the countries, from the sovereign wealth funds, from the pension funds, from the largest countries in the world will announce at some point that they have bought this much Bitcoin or that they own this much Bitcoin. There will be other people and other organizations and banks and countries who currently back their fiat money with gold. They'll also be moving out of gold and into Bitcoin. Why would they do this, you ask? The increase in profit in gold is, with the exception of last year, it's only a couple percent. It's not a lot. In 20 some odd years, it's gone from, I think, 1,800, we'll call it 1,000, I believe, to now 3,500. Bitcoin in that same amount of time has gone from 0.000, crap, to 107,000. I believe it works out to 65 million%. Instead of gold, that's about 200 to 300%. Is there a difference between you holding something in your hand called gold, something they tell you is worth something, or digital gold where it's on the blockchain? There's no difference at all. Is there a difference between fiat money and gold? Is there a difference between seashells and gold? Is there a difference between tulips and gold? All these things at one point or another in history, even rocks, stones, beads, They have all been considered money. You and I have grown up, and we've been told that this piece of paper with some dude's face on it and, a triangle with the all-seeing eye, oddly enough, is printed on it, is worth something. This is money. So let's go 2-3 generations. Let's go 100 years down the road where your grandchildren have been told that Bitcoin is money. And from the time they're born, they only know of Bitcoin being money. Wouldn't they think that Bitcoin is then money? Wouldn't it be funny to them when you pulled out a dollar bill and said, hey, this used to be money? It'd be hilarious to them, right? Same way as if I pulled out a tulip right now and said, this used to be money, or a shell, this used to be money, right? Or a rock, for fuck's sakes, this used to be money. Hilarious. We look at it now and say, what are you, crazy? Right? No, that's not money. Money is this thing with the dude's face on it, with the triangle on the, right? So the same thing one day is going to be going down with Bitcoin. And I realized I might have been muted all this time, which is a shame. I'm going to have to test that. Let's get right into some Bitcoin technical analysis. And let's hope that I wasn't muted all this time, but I could have potentially been muted. And I had such nice things to say. So I'm going to cut it right here so I can listen to my video. I'm going to forego the technical analysis right now, because if I was muted all this time, I'm going to start the stream over again. Our stories are going to be about BitBonds in New York City, and about Bitcoin being considered a huge part of everything we do now by Donald Trump Jr., because it definitely is. For now, I am going to drop the stream and make sure I was actually recording. And I thank you all for joining, and I will see